Hello, I'm Michael Aldridge, and this is Sean Smith with Infinite Dreams Gaming, and we're here today to tell you a little bit about our new board game, Warehouse 13, the board game. We have received the intellectual property license from NBC Universal and partnered with Conquest Gaming in order to bring this game to you, and we plan to tell you a little bit about it today. So, the Warehouse is a top secret government facility in the middle of South Dakota. And actually, I should say that Warehouse 13 was on Sci-Fi Channel for 5 seasons, and was actually, if I'm not mistaken, the highest rated show that Sci-Fi had at the time. And this is even after Battlestar Galactica was on. So the gameplay of Warehouse 13, the board game, actually acts much like a series of episodes. Where the warehouse agents will go out and retrieve artifacts to keep them out of the hands of people who might want to use them to cause other people harm or to use them for their own personal gain. So the warehouse, as I said, is a top secret government facility in the middle of South Dakota, and players will take on the role of these warehouse agents. Each of the warehouse agents has their own special abilities and traits. For example, this is Micah. She is good at logic and lore, as you can see from these colors here. She has a 2 mental trait and 2 physical trait. And then she also has her normal abilities, such as she has an asset ability. Whenever she's rolling these warehouse dice, she can roll 2 of them instead of everyone will normally roll 1 warehouse die. She gets to roll 2, but if she rolls 00, she gets knocked out. Every character has a once per episode ability, which is once per artifact, a once per season ability, which is once per game, and a downside. For example, with Micah, she cannot draw any intuition cards. So, the agents will all be working, most of the agents will be working together to try to retrieve artifacts and claim them and put them in the warehouse to keep them out of McPherson's hands. If they lose the artifact, the game's main adversary, James McPherson, will take control of those artifacts, and that'll cause bad consequences for the agent team. As I mentioned, there are most of the people are going to be working for the warehouse. 4 of the agents are going to be working for the warehouse with Mrs. Frederick, who is the warehouse's main caretaker. One player will always be, there will always be exactly 1 trader in the game, and then they will be working with McPherson.
It is worth noting that for those of you who are not fans of Hidden Trader games, there will be a purely co-op variant so that you can play anywhere from 2 to 5 people in a completely co-op situation. It will not be the same level of challenge as the intended game, because you won't have somebody actively working against your success. Though, by starting out with a consequence or more than 1 in play, you can certainly adjust the level of challenge accordingly so that the game is just as enjoyable, fully co-op, as it would be playing it with a Hidden Trader.
Right. Agents will draw trait cards. They will draw automatically. They will get to draw cards of their focus traits. But they can draw any of the other traits if they're doing something like warehouse research. They can draw 2 traits of any type. They'll use these trait cards either for the action on the card, or they can use it during the work the case step for their number and symbol to claim dice that have matching symbols. You have to pay at least 1 logic to claim any of these 1 logic clues. You'd have to have a 2 logic card in order to claim this 2 logic clue. Or, in this case, you would spend this card for its action during your action step to claim any accessible blue die. So you could claim either this 2 logic clue or this 1 lore clue, because those are blue dice. However, that's during the action step. We'll also have a work the case step where you have to investigate clues, and I'll go over that here in a little bit. Now, whenever you are spending these cards, during the work the case step. You can always overpay, but you cannot spend more than one card, nor can you collect more than one die. We don't do math and we don't make change. So let's say that you spent this 2 intuition card. You can claim either of these clues. However, if you claim this 1 intuition clue, you're not going to get anything in return other than that 1 die. If there were two of the 1 intuition dice, you could not, for example, let me put that on there. If you spent this 2 intuition card, you could not take 2 of the 1s. You can either take a single 2 or a single 1. It is your choice. Now, notice some of the cards say action on it. You have to have an action to play its text for an action. You have instant cards, which can be played at any time. And there are also cards that say retrieval that will happen after the investigation phase. And we'll go over all of that in a minute. So, in these trait draw piles, we also have calamities that will show up. Some calamities will put gears, which are obstacles on the warehouse maintenance track. You can also have calamities that will send dice to the neutralizer bucket or the goo bucket. In this case, it will send any yellow die to the goo bucket. So either of these dice, if this card is drawn, either of these dice will be placed in the goo bucket. And so that takes that die out of play for the rest of the episode.
What if we've already claimed all the yellow dice, though?
If we've already claimed, so what happens is, on the bucket of die mechanic, you have to claim dice from the leads first. The leads are accessible to anyone, whether you're in the warehouse or in the field. Basically, we have 2 locations on this game board, the warehouse and the field. Dice that are in the leads, which are these dice in the middle, are accessible to anyone, anywhere. The dice that are in the field are accessible only if you have traveled out to the field, in this case, Boston, Massachusetts. So if the yellow dice that are in the leads area are gone, then a die would come off the artifact. If there are no yellow dice available at all, you would have to neutralize a die that someone has already claimed and behind their shields. So
that's unfortunate, since they've already paid trait cards and spent an action to get them.
Absolutely. So let me put these back where they were. And we'll go through a sample turn here. So if you notice inside Micah's shield here, we have an action step and a work the case step and a draw a focus trait. Actually, let me rewind and start off with the setup of the game. Whenever we start out, we're going to turn over a ping card. The ping is the location where the artifact is. Usually, Artie will throw out this device called a ping football, and it will report back wherever it finds an artifact anywhere in the world.
Which is the ping football is what's actually on the back of the ping cards.
So the agents don't know what the artifact is, but they know that an artifact is reporting back somewhere around Boston, Massachusetts, in this case.
Collates basically general odd activity that probably is being caused by an artifact somewhere.
Right. So what we'll do is there are the 3 dice here on Boston's card, the black wild die, a logic die, and a lore die. So I've already rolled those and placed them on the artifact. And then I've rolled all of the other clue dice and placed them here in the leads according to symbol, not the color of the die. Now the dice colors indicate the symbol that the die is more likely to roll. For example, this intuition die has a 1 intuition, a 1 tech, a 1 lore, and a 1 logic symbol. It also has a 0 intuition and a 2 intuition symbol. So this die is more likely to roll intuition symbols. It has a half a chance to roll an intuition symbol and a half a chance to roll any other symbol. Similarly, the lore die has 1 of each symbol, plus a 0 lore and a 2 lore. However, as you see, in this case, it has rolled the 1 intuition symbol, so we put it with the other intuition clues. Now, whenever you're spending those trait cards during the work the case step, you match the number and symbol to the symbol on the die, not the color of the die. the color of the card matches the color of the gear. So if I'm wanting to claim this, I would spend a yellow card, not a blue card, because I'm trying to match those symbols.
You can think of the leads as information that's pretty much available from anywhere, be it there's information you can research on the internet, information you can research in a book somewhere, those type of things. Whereas the clues that are actually in the field, those are things more like forensic evidence that you actually have to be on site to investigate. So, if you think about it that way, it makes a little bit more sense. Because even
you can see, things you can smell, things like that.
Exactly. Whereas even if you're out in the field, you could still pop open your laptop and look something up online, which means these are still available to you even when you're in the field, in Boston in this case.
The only limitation is that people in the warehouse can't look up anything in Boston because they can't see that stuff. They can't feel it, they can't hear it. So.
And by investigating those clues, you actually get to see what the artifact is, which gives you a better idea of what it's going to require to retrieve that artifact, and can give you a leg up the faster you can reveal that information.
Exactly. Once these clues are investigated, we'll turn this artifact over and we'll see, in this case, it's Redica's compass. And you can see that when we're gonna retrieve this artifact, we're gonna need a lot of logic symbols. Logic symbols are mostly found on the logic dice, so we're gonna wanna get as many of the blue dice as possible. The faster that you can investigate the clues from the artifact, the faster you're gonna know, hey, these are the clue dice that we're gonna need. Obviously, we're not gonna need as many yellow dice because there's no lore clues that are required to retrieve this artifact. Now, I say that, however, if you look at the text here, it says during retrieval, lore clues can be applied to any requirement. So in this case, lore clues are actually good. Normally when this is blank, you don't need any of that requirement, but in this case, the text on the card says that lore clues are actually good. This is actually a quite difficult artifact to collect because it has a total of 5, 7, 11 total clues that have to be matched with these 13 dice. So.
Another thing to take into account when trying to decide what dice are important to you, though, are what characters you actually have in play. If you have Artie in play, he actually has the ability to re-roll a misapplied yellow lore die. We'll talk about what misapplied means a little bit later, but that obviously means that Artie wants those yellow dice to be in play because that plays into his ability set. Claudia, on the other hand, really likes having the green dice because when she applies green dice, they can't be neutralized by the adversary. So again, depending on what characters you're playing and their ability sets also tells you what dice that you're going to want to try and be sure to save.
Absolutely.
One other piece of information that you get when you investigate those clues and you turn over the artifact is you find out what consequence that there's going to be if you fail to retrieve that artifact. So in this case, if the agents were to fail to get Redica's compass, that means that McPherson is going to permanently lock a blue die. That die will be no longer available for the agents to use for the entire rest of the game. So it's going to be pretty important to make sure that you retrieve that artifact.
Exactly. Now notice that consequence is not going to take effect until the agents lose this artifact. But as soon as that artifact is lost, that blue die is going to go as well. Now, if this is something that is really important to get, if the agents all agree that, oh, we really don't want a blue die to be locked, then we really need to, maybe use some of our agents once per game abilities in order to acquire Redica's compass and place it in the stacks rather than let McPherson have it. So, a little bit of a turn sequence here. After we have revealed the ping location and rolled all of our dice, McPherson is going to get a turn. Now, whenever the trader has not yet revealed, we're just going to turn over the top card of the trader deck. Whenever the trader is revealed, then they're going to take control of this trader deck and play the cards intelligently. However, the remaining dice are going to be in the hands of the agents, and they're going to be a lot more concentrated now that when they're out of the hands of the trader. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. Yeah, the trader can work that trader deck intelligently, but let's say that there are there were 3 players in play. The dice that were normally split up between 3 agents are now split up between 2 agents. So those dice can be rolled a lot more during retrieval, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So in this case, we roll up the top card of the trader deck, and in this case it says an agent must draw 1 stress. And in this case, an agent is the first agent. Now, Artie is the supervisor of the warehouse, so he is going to be the one who takes this 1 stress. Now, if there was an actual revealed trader, that trader would get to say, oh, I think Claudia should receive that stress instead of Artie. And so, like I say, the revealed trader can play that trader deck intelligently.
Now the first agent is, as Michael pointed out, Artie is the supervisor of the warehouse, so if he is in play, he will be the first agent for the first episode. After that, the first agent token does pass to the first agents to the left. In this case, would be going to Pete. The agents all have an ID number that is just something that we created as a clue to show everybody, like a general ranking of the warehouse agents. So let's say that Artie is not being played. Let's say that it's just Pete, Jinx, and Claudia. Well, then his ID number will tell you that Pete is the one who begins the game as the first agent. But
Pete
then
has ID 30, Jinx has 40, Claudia has 50. So Pete would start the game as the first agent.
But just know that an agent does not get, it's not the same person getting picked on for the entire duration of the game. It's
right.
Each episode, the first agent token does pass to the next player on the left.
Right. So after McPherson has played his card, then we're going to go to the agent's turns. And we're going to start out with everyone taking an action. With the action step, you can heal. You can activate one of the action spaces, or you can play one of the traits as an action, as I had explained before. During the action step, if you have been knocked out, or even worse, wounded, looks like the wound doesn't want to stay on Micah there. If you have been knocked out or wounded, you must use your action to heal. So you can heal by removing the wound token, or later by standing up your token so that they're no longer knocked out. You can also activate an action space. For example, you could activate Warehouse Research, where you can draw 2 traits of the same type. You can visit the bed and breakfast to discard 2 stress, and we'll talk a little bit more about stress here in a minute. You can go to the warehouse maintenance, where you can defeat one of these obstacles to remove it, and you can encounter these in any order that you want. You have mental obstacles and physical obstacles that will match the physical and mental traits that each of the agents have. And you have to try to exceed the obstacle number by rolling the warehouse die plus your corresponding trait. So for example, if Micah was going to challenge this mental obstacle here, she has a 2 mental and the obstacle is a 3 mental. So most characters would roll 1 warehouse die. The warehouse die has a 0, 2 1s, 2 2s, and 1 3. So it's a weighted die. She would have to roll any 2 or 3. So she has a half chance to defeat this obstacle if she were just a normal player. But as we had explained before, Micah gets to roll 2 dice and apply whichever one that she wants, as long as she doesn't roll 00, which would knock her out. Now in this case, 2 plus 3 is 5, which exceeds a 3. So we would remove that obstacle from the warehouse maintenance track. Now it's worth noting that even if you exceed the value, for example, let's say that Micah was going up well, let's use another character here. Let's use Claudia. Let's say Claudia was going up against a 2 mental obstacle. Clearly, she already exceeds that amount. So you would think that a 3 plus a 0 is still greater than 2. But with the warehouse maintenance die, a 0 is always a fail. So even though she exceeds the warehouse maintenance obstacle, a 0 is always a fail.
If you're happen to be playing characters who don't have the appropriate abilities to really be going up against like a high mental or a high physical trait, don't fret. There are trait cards that allow you to either reduce the difficulty of certain obstacles or even remove them entirely as an action. Absolutely. So there are multiple ways to approach these problems.
Right. So let's say that that you have a 4 physical obstacle with a +1 ring sitting here on the intuition draw pile.
That's going to be tough even for Pete.
That's going to be tough. Yeah, Pete's got a 3 physical stat, but he's still got to roll a 3 on a warehouse maintenance die. So that's a 1 in 6 chance. So that's not a very good chance. You could play Teslas, which will reduce the difficulty of that physical obstacle. For each Tesla you play, it reduces it by 1. Or you could play something like a Tesla grenade, which is going to get rid of an obstacle at your location. And that'll probably be the preferred way of handling something as nasty as this. Especially if it's someone like Claudia or already going up against it. So.
And then there's also the Inkwell, which allows you to actually replace an obstacle with a new one that is drawn from the bag. Or H.G. Wells Grappler, which another player can play to assist somebody with getting rid of an obstacle at some degree of risk to themselves. Yes.
Yeah, because they could be knocked out, they could be wounded. So what we're going to do is you can also vote to bronze or debronze an agent if you've happened to bronze the wrong person. If you end up bronzing the traitor, then they will become revealed and go over and work with McPherson. However, if you bronze a loyal agent, you're going to lose all of their cards to the game box. So if they manage to have all the Teslas, then you're not going to get any of those. And you can also use your action to travel out to the field. After you've spent your action, after everybody has taken an action, then you're going to do the work the case step. This is when you're going to spend your cards for the number and symbol to claim these clues here. If you cannot or choose not to claim one of these clues, you have to choose one to send to the goo bucket. And so that's going to become unavailable for the rest of the episode.
So that makes the dice work as basically a timer on the episode. You can't just sit around collecting cards forever because you're going to lose dice if you don't actually get out there and get them investigated.
Right, because someone's actually using that artifact out there, and you don't want anyone to use it or McPherson to get it. So then after everyone has done the work, the case step, then everyone's going to get to draw a focus trait.
It is worth noting that when you're in the field, there are actually a couple of different actions that are available to you. Field research means you can draw one card and it can only come from your focus trait. So you're a lot more limited in what you're able to research when you're in the field as opposed to what you can research in the warehouse. There's also field investigation, which is the exact same thing as working the case, except you're able to just do that as your action on your turn, which you cannot normally do in the warehouse.
But it's important to note that you also have to work the case that turn. So
absolutely.
If there are any dice left available, you'll still have to work the case.
Some pings will even have an action on them that there's specifically an action that you're able to do in that city. This one does not, but
right.
That is also available.
Right. So once all of the clues have been retrieved from the artifact will be revealed. If for some reason the last die that was removed from the artifact is the last clue die entirely, all the rest have already been claimed or neutralized. If this was the last die to be removed, some of the artifacts will have a whammy effect. This is going to take effect only in that instance if the die on the artifact was the last one removed. You really don't want to waste to take your time getting out to the field and removing those clues.
When we say that you're whammied, that's basically a term that they use quite often on the show, especially in relation to Pete, because Pete tended to touch things he shouldn't touch. But pretty much you've managed to bungle the investigation to the point where the artifact has now affected you in some negative fashion.
Absolutely. So after the investigation phase, after all of the clues have been either claimed or neutralized, that's the end of the investigation phase, and we're going to move on to the retrieval phase. In the retrieval phase, you're going to take the dice that you have collected and you're going to roll them behind your shield. Now, in this case, I'm going to show everyone what I'm rolling, and we're trying to match these symbols up. So if I'm working for the warehouse, I'm probably going to want to spend one of these, either the 2 logic or in this case the 2 lore, because lore clues can be applied to any requirement. The 0 tech is not going to help me at all, and the 1 tech used for a wild die, you could probably use that wild die for its 2 wild or at least a 1 wild face, so they could be used for anything. So probably best in this case to spend the 2 logic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 2 logic clue, I'm going to secretly put it underneath this warehouse dice cover. So after everyone has placed a die under their dice cover, they're going to reveal. McPherson, as the automated trader, is going to roll one of these purple goo dice, which is going to neutralize one of the dice if it matches. And in this case, I've rolled a 2 wild symbol, which is going to neutralize that 2 logic clue, which is pretty bad for us because clearly we're going to need blue dice to claim this artifact. So whenever the trader has been revealed, the trader will actually roll all 3 of the goo dice, put one underneath their dice shield, and in this case it doesn't matter, it's going to be a 1 tech. Put one underneath their dice shield, and they will reveal after the agents have revealed theirs.
A die that's been neutralized is even worse than a die that is just incorrectly applied. If you misapply a die, that's just basically saying that it's not counting toward a requirement that is actually that is on the artifact.
Right, but Artie could still re-roll. He can't re-roll the stuff that's been neutralized. So
there's a card that allows the re-roll of misapplied dice. There are other people who have abilities that can re-roll misapplied dice. Neutralized dice are no longer available for the episode.
Absolutely. So let's say that we fulfill all of these requirements. We're going to put the card in the stacks, and the consequence is not going to take effect. We're going to put that on the bottom of the deck. And then we're going to go on to the next episode. The third episode is always going to have an Adversary Artifact, and those are extremely powerful cards. They will all have, not only, if you lose them, not only will you have a consequence that will be applied if it's lost, it will also have a consequence directly on the artifact. So that's the one that the trader really wants to get. So if the trader can hold out until episode 3, they're really going to get a big payoff around the middle of the game. However, there's a little bit of a risk because if the agents get 3 artifacts, the game is over. This is a good time to talk about the game ending conditions. So if the agents can acquire 3 artifacts and put them in the stacks, the agents win, except for the trader, obviously. If McPherson can capture 3 artifacts before the agents do, then McPherson is going to be able to try to launch 2 out of 3 plots, and the plots will work very similarly to the retrieval phase. If McPherson can, if the agents can stop 2 of McPherson's plots, then the agent wins. Then the agent team wins. Otherwise, McPherson is going to win as well as the trader. That's not the only way that McPherson can win, however. McPherson can also fill up this warehouse maintenance track and make the warehouse blow up. At the end of every episode, agents will get stress cards, which work basically as hand fillers for the hand size of 13. And stress is never a problem until it's a problem. Once the stress deck runs out and you try to draw a stress and one is not available, the agents give up and McPherson wins. So there are plenty of ways for the trader to win. Only one real way for the agents to win, and that's to put 3 artifacts in the stacks. Or as a desperation attempt, try to stop 2 of McPherson's plots.
Think of it in terms of as the agents are acquiring these artifacts, the difficulty of the game really doesn't change. But every artifact they lose, the game gets subsequently more difficult because of these consequences. So there is a finale that takes place if the trader gets 3 artifacts. as a last-ditch attempt for the agents to make a comeback. But note, if you get to that point, it is heavily weighted in the trader's favor, so you're really taking a last-ditch attempt at winning at that point.
Right. So unlike a game like Battlestar Galactica, where you could reveal as a Cylon, or in this case as a trader, in Warehouse 13, the board game, you cannot reveal as a trader on your own. Now, you can do things that will make people think that you're the trader, and then they're going to try to bronze you. But there are only a certain number of ways that you can actually reveal as a trader without getting bronzed. One of the ways is by being alone in the field after retrieving an artifact. So let's say that we have retrieved the Goblet of Severan as a team, but we left Micah out in the field by herself. If Micah is a trader, she can say, you know what? I don't want you guys to have that. I'm the trader, and I'm going to take this to McPherson along with the consequence. So
don't trust anybody.
Don't trust, yeah. Unless, even if you've seen them do something that is extremely positive for the warehouse team, try to get somebody else out in the field to watch each other. In the TV series, they never went out to the field alone, and they trusted each other implicitly. So never send one person out to the field by themselves. The other way that one of the other ways that they can reveal is by getting a loyal trader bronzed. If you can convince everybody that, say for instance, Artie is the trader and he is a loyal agent, at that time you can, but you're not required to, you can reveal as a trader and say, I got one of you loyal agents bronzed, I'm going to take off. Now when that happens, you're going to start out with a hand of 2 trader cards that you can then play instead of the automated adversary happening. So whenever the trader's turn comes up, the trader will get to play an action and then draw a free action, sort of like they would draw their free trait card. The final way that a trader can reveal on their own is some of these adversary artifacts will say consequence, trader may reveal, and in that case the trader can choose to reveal. If the trader is not revealed by the time that McPherson has captured 3 artifacts, then the trader is absolutely going to reveal when that 3rd artifact is lost. So the game is playable in approximately 130 minutes, and that's if you go through 5 episodes and a finale. You can play in about 2.5 hours. So we stuck with the 13 theme. It's at 130 minutes. So
the average game will probably go a little bit shorter than that because you're probably not going to go exactly 5 episodes plus a finale. Absolutely.
So it's great for fans of Hidden Trader games, obviously, and if for some reason, if you don't like Hidden Trader games, there are plenty of ways that you can play without the Hidden Trader element by playing with one of the variants. If you'd like, you can follow us on Twitter. I believe if you search for hashtag Warehouse13 the board game, you'll find our Twitter handle, and then you can follow us there. You can also sign up at tinyurl.com/w13tbg-contact. That'll get you on our contact list, and so you can fill out your name and email address, and then we will send you information as we get it. You can also go to boardgamegeek.com and check out our Warehouse 13 the board game page, where we've already got several subscribers. You can subscribe to that page, and then you'll get any sort of information that comes out about Warehouse 13 the board game. We're going to post as we get things approved through NBC Universal, and when we're ready to go on to Kickstarter.
And very soon there should actually be the website up at warehouse13theboardgame.com also.
Right, absolutely. So this is Warehouse 13 the board game. Should hopefully be kickstarting here in hopefully sometime in the second quarter, hopefully no later than third quarter. As NBC has to approve everything, a lot of it's out of our hands, but rest assured that we're doing everything we can to get this game to you hopefully by the end of the year. So follow us, and we'll keep you updated.